What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another Swift video. In today's video, we're going to be learning how to create a table view fully programmatically. So it's kind of been raised to my attention that there's a lot of videos on how to do this in Storyboard, but inevitably, at some point, you're going to need to learn how to do this fully in code. So that's what we're going to learn today. And I'm going to do my best to explain every single thing that we do. So not only do you learn how to do it, but you understand the why behind each of the things we add. So this is the app we're going to put together. Let's get started by destroying that like button, get Xcode ready, get pumped. Let's talk about some table views programmatically. Quick pause before the video. This video is brought to you by iOSacademy.io. Head on over to check out the newly launched TikTok and Swift UI courses. Learn to build world-class professional apps in a fraction of the time, quickly and efficiently. That said, let's get back to the video. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started by opening up Xcode, and we're going to create a brand new project here. We're going to stick with the app template under the iOS tab to get started. And let's go ahead and give this project a name of TableView in code. You want to make sure your language is Swift. Your interface can be Storyboard. We're going to do everything in code, but just make sure your lifecycle is UIKit. Go ahead and continue. Save it wherever you'd like. We'll save it to our desktop. And the first thing we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to expand our Xcode window here to give ourselves a little more room to work. We're going to jump into our ViewController where we're going to be writing all of our code. Let me go ahead and close this right panel. And let's also go ahead and hit this run button with the simulator of our choice selected to get that building and booted up for us to build our table views. So it looks like build succeeded right there. And here is our simulator, and there is our empty app that has just installed. So cool, let's go ahead and create the table view. So the very first thing we want to go ahead and do is actually declare a table view. So we can go ahead and say let's table view is a UI table view, just like that. This is your instance name. Call it whatever you'd like. We're just calling it table view for simplicity's sake. The next thing we want to go ahead and do is add this as a subview to our ViewController's root view. So we're going to say view add subview, our table view. Now we want to go ahead and override view did layout subviews, which is where we're going to go ahead and give this table view a frame. So we first call super view did layout subviews since we're overriding, and then we're going to assign to this table view a frame of view.bounds. Now this is basically saying make the table view's frame, its x, y, width, and height, the same x, y, width, and height for the root view on the ViewController, which is just view right here. So cool, the next thing we want to go ahead and do is we want to assign two properties on the table view called delegate, and let's get rid of that extra parenthesis right there that I copied. And we also want to assign the table views data source. And when you go ahead and add these two lines, you're going to see two errors pop up. And we don't need to read it, but basically what the errors are telling us is that we have gone ahead and said that the table views delegate will be self, aka the current class we're in, which is ViewController. And we've also said that for the data source. But we have not conformed to those two protocols. So we need to come up here and say that these two classes, or that the single class, conforms to these two protocols. So it is UI table view delegate and UI table view data source. Now, once you add those two errors will go away, but we will have another error up here. And if we hit the error and hit fix, it's going to go ahead and add these two functions in here, which I'm going to move to the bottom. And these are the two required functions for our table view data source. So the first function here, we need to say how many cells, or how many rows rather, do we want to return in a given section. So I'm just going to return, let's say 10, just for an example's sake. Now this other function here, which is cell for row at index path, this is where we need to actually dequeue a cell and return it to the table. So we're going to say let cell is table view, and we want to dequeue a reusable cell. So we're going to say dequeue a reusable cell, and the Function I like to use is with identifier and for index path. We'll say identifier is a string cell, and we're going to use it for the index path that we're getting as a parameter. And then right down here, we're just going to go ahead and say return cell since this function requires us to return a cell. And on the cell, I'm going to go ahead and assign its text label, which every cell has, and its text. And we're going to say this is cell, and I'm also going to add into this string the current position. So we'll say index path dot row plus 1. Now, before we run this, we skipped a very important thing that we need to do. We said dequeue a cell with a identifier of cell. Where is this cell string coming from? Well, right now we kind of just made it up, but what we need to do is we need to register to our table here the different identifiers we plan to use. And if you want to use any custom cell, this is how you would do that as well. But since we're kind of just focusing on the bare basics here, on the table view, we're going to say register a UI table view cell.self. So this is the vanilla base class from UIKit for a table view cell, and we're going to say the ID is cell. So when we come to this function and it says, okay, dequeue a cell with this ID, what's going on here is it looks at the table and it says, okay, do you have that string registered? And in fact, we do with the UI table view cell. It goes ahead and creates it for the given index path. We're assigning a text string to the text label and we return it. So let's go ahead and let me pause this on the top left here and hit the run button one more time. And let's see if we start seeing our table view. So we, in fact, do looking pretty great. We're going to do two more things. So the next thing we're going to do is right now we tap on this, each cell just stays highlighted. We want to unhighlight it, but we also want to print out something in our console that indicates that the cell was tapped. So to do that, we are going to implement one of the delegate functions, and that is did select row at index path. And this function comes from the UI table view delegate that we have put up here since we're conforming to it. And in this function, we're going to go ahead and say table view, and we want to deselect that row, which will go ahead and unhighlight it. First parameter is the index path, and this thing comes in as a parameter to this function. And the second one, we're going to say true for animation. And I'm just going to go ahead and print out cell tapped. So let's go ahead and hit Command R to build and run. And now you'll notice when we go ahead and actually tap on these, not only does it kind of highlight and disappear, down here we now have this printing out for cell tapped. Now the last thing I'll mention is right now we've kind of hard coded this 10 rows that we want, and every single text for the cell is going to say cell followed by just the number, the position of the cell. So 1, 2, 3, 4, so on and so on. So what we want to go ahead and do is make that a little dynamic, which is more of a real world scenario. So up here, I'm going to create an array called data, and it's going to be an array of strings. And in view to load, we are going to say for x in 0 to, let's say, 100, we are going to say data dot append a string of some data, and I'm going to stick in x into this string. And now what we can do is a number of rows, we can say return data.count, which is the number of strings in data. And here we can say is from data, get the nth position string, which is index path.row. Index path also has a section on it, but we're going to focus on the row in this video. And that'll be a string that we assign to the cell's text label text. So let's go ahead and continue by hitting Command R to build and run. And now we'll see that we have 100, I believe, different rows here. And we can scroll all the way down. And you'll also see that we also have the proper number showing up here from our array. And that's how in a real world application, if you had a bunch of data that you want to show in a table view, whether it's a list of contacts or information, or let's say you're building an app like Facebook with a feed and you want to show a bunch of feed posts, that's basically how that would work, except instead of strings, you would have much more complicated objects. So that's all I've got for you guys. Pretty simple video, pretty important to building any app in UIKit and for iOS. If you haven't done so already, make sure you destroy that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Comment down below what you guys want to see, any video feedback. Love hearing from you guys. Just say hi. Love interacting with all of you. And most importantly, hit subscribe and that notification bell to stay up to date with daily Swift and iOS uploads. Thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one.